What's up, guys? Hope you all are ready to learn some economics. In this module, we are going to be discussing some pretty interesting stuff. Alright, we're going to talk about basically what a business cycle is and why policymakers seek to diminish the severity of business cycles. We're going to talk about how employment, unemployment are measured and how they change over the business cycle. We're going to talk about the definition of aggregate output and all this other fun stuff that you guys will see. Now, this is a lot of stuff, so you might have to pause it and write down the information as we go through it. The business cycle is the short-run alternation between economic downturns and economic upturns. We're going to go into more detail on what that is. Now, part of the business cycle, you're going to have a depression, which is a very long and very deep and prolonged downturn. Those are extremely rare. In fact, we've really only had one depression in the history of tracking economic cycles in the United States. Mostly we have what are called recessions, which are periods of economic downturn, but they tend to be short-term, within 6 months to a year or 2 years. Expansions, sometimes called recoveries, are periods of economic upturns when output and employment are rising. So basically that's when the economy is growing. Recessions, the economy is contracting. The point at which the economy turns from expansion to recession is called the business cycle peak. The point at which the economy turns from recession to expansion is called the business cycle trough. Those are less necessary to know, but just kind of visually kind of help you see that. So this graph here kind of shows you a couple of key pieces of information. So the areas that are shaded here are periods of recession, and you can see the orange line is the unemployment rate. So you can kind of see that when we have a recession, that causes unemployment to go up. When we're not in a recession, that leads to unemployment rate dropping for the most part. It's not always guaranteed like that, and we'll kind of talk about that more. This right here is why economists really like infographics or graphs or other visuals, because you can kind of show something really easily to a lot of people. Okay, employment is the total number of people currently working for pay. Unemployment is the total number of people who are actively looking for work but are currently not employed. We're going to go into a lot more detail on this in the next unit, but this is just kind of introducing these topics here. The labor force is the sum of the employment and unemployment number, so how many people are either working or not working but actively seeking work. All right. The unemployment rate is a percentage of the labor force that is unemployed. All right. Aggregate output in the business cycle. Basically, whenever there's a recession, the quantity of goods and services that are bought and sold declines. To measure the rise and fall of the economy's output, we look at aggregate output. That's the economy's total production of goods and services for a given time period. Now, output normally falls during a recession and rises during expansion. A rising aggregate price level is inflation. A falling aggregate price level is deflation. Again, we're going to go into more detail on a lot of this stuff in later modules. The inflation rate is the percentage change in the price level. The economy has price stability when the price level is changing slowly. We'll kind of talk about what the target inflation rate is in the United States. Economic growth. Americans have become able to afford to buy many more material goods over time thanks to long-run economic growth. These products have not only gotten cheaper, but we have started earning more money, so we can buy more of them. Economic growth is an increase in the maximum possible output for an economy. As you can see, real GDP, we'll talk more about that later, what that is, but basically that's the measure of total output. You can see that it's gone up since 1900, and that even accounts for inflation. A model is a simplified representation of a real situation that is used to better understand real-life situations. So in economics, we love models. We'll talk more about this in class, but basically a model could be a graph, it could be a visual, it could be other things. It's also the math behind those graphs, which we don't get into as much in this class, but if you were to take advanced economics classes and design your own models, then that would be part of it, is what information to include to make your graph. Other things equal is also called ceteris paribus, and I will write that on the board for you during the next class. But that is an important assumption here. So when we look at issues with economics, it's very easy for us to kind of go way too deep into a problem and really kind of get focused on the wrong stuff. So economists will often invoke ceteris paribus, meaning we're going to hold everything else the same except for we're going to change one thing. All right, and what's the next thing that changes? Because things are complicated. And so if it's too complicated, then we can't actually sit there and work through the problem. So that's Sutter's favorite. It's a Latin phrase. Like I said, I'll write that for you on the board when you guys come in. We'll talk more about that in detail. Other than that, if you have any questions over anything, please write them down on the back of the sheet of your notes. There's a little summary for you, so if you have that, if you have questions, just do that, and then we'll answer them during the next class. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.